Hello, hello, good morning, welcome to Feedback Friday. It is an art edition. I am your host, Jacob Johnson. How's it going, everybody? Thanks. Jacob Art is the best. It is not, but it's not bad. At least I hope. I don't think it's bad. Hello, everybody. So today we are actually going to do a super short stream. I know the last time I hosted, we did a short stream as well because there was like a company meeting. I actually have a meeting with Dave. Specifically, we're going over a bunch of kind of like stuff for the game design doc, and we want to kind of like finalize because we're basically, you know, going full in, but we want to verify everything today. So I'm gonna stream until 1 o'clock, go on lunch, and I'll have my meeting with Dave. So again, it's gonna be a short one, but hello everyone saying hi. But what we might be able to accomplish in this short amount of time is many of us might recall the Gang Boss character that was created way back for Claw Shot City, I believe. And we never actually ended up implementing that character. We kind of held off on putting her in because we're like, oh, we'll make her a portal projector character or something like that. And then that just kind of never ended up happening that way. So what I was thinking is we could attempt to kind of like modify that character to kind of fit the floating island theme a bit more. I think she could fit with the law group because, I mean, that's kind of what she was drawn to represent anyways. However, the floating islands kind of law group have a little bit more kind of steampunk elements to them. But I think that could be fun to try. So let me see if I can dig up. All right, I did find the file. Cool. Okay, so I'll just move some of my other windows out of here. You don't need to see all the like various beards and clouds reference pictures I have on my my screen. All right, so let's pop over to Photoshop. So this is what we created. Let's see, is there a date on this file? It shows me the modified, but let me see when it was created. Woohoo! All right, May 14th, 2015. So it's getting up there. Certainly not the oldest of the mice, but it could be potentially the oldest of the basically finished but unused mice, because there are very few of those. Usually we'll kind of adapt or scrap. But this one we were kind of like, no, we don't want to scrap it. We just don't know where to put her yet. So there's another element about it. Back when it was created, one of the kind of members of the stream was lucky enough to kind of get their name basically as an Easter egg in it. I'm not sure if we have any other ones hidden in this one, but yeah, I don't know if we need to kind of like preserve that. I think it's kind of, you know, they were there for the original, so I don't want to remove that honor. Mind you, I'm sure a number of you also were here around then too, watching with me. But let's see. Oops, accidentally hid the chat. Let me do that pop up thing. Set on top. All right. Here we go. Will she be the law boss? I'm not sure. We haven't kind of like locked down on the kind of design concepts for the kind of like the paragons of the area is what I'm calling them, which are basically just the bosses of each of the power types. But I feel like because of her history, that would be pretty rad. and that could work like with the kind of stashed kind of loot she has that she's guarding, perhaps. But I think until we know what the other power types are doing for theirs, I don't want to like say like, yeah, she's definitely going to be the boss, because we might want to have a very specific kind of theme to it, kind of like with the wardens that we were working on 2 weeks ago, how we were kind of like making them more elemental or based out of like a natural phenomena, or unnatural, I suppose, but less kind of like actual, here's this mouse, more here's this force in nature. So I think for her, she'll make a good candidate for the boss of that power type, but no guarantees. I'll put her in as that, and then obviously if things change, then you'll know when you know. So yeah, back in business, exactly. No new types yet. Obviously, like that's something for us to consider in the future. A number of the power types have kind of like reached their theoretical maximums. Not that that is actually a thing. It's just kind of like we've kind of like put a cap on them for now, where it's kind of like, okay, this is like as high as we want them to go until like the next tier we decide to open up. But a number of them have kind of like room to grow for sure. But that said, like I think that we've kind of like tossed around some ideas of new future power types that we might want to look into. And that'll be kind of new areas, potential, possibly. And if we kind of like know our direction, one of the things we're doing right now is we're kind of like working on having a better structure and flow between developing content at the time, and then also kind of like developing the roadmap for future content. We've kind of hit and miss on that in the past, and so potentially, and this is kind of like really hopeful thinking, we haven't kind of like managed it specifically yet, but hopefully we can kind of like really kind of like work this area out, make it come together in like a good amount of time, but at the same time also kind of like figure out, all right, what's the next thing we're working on, and start to kind of like set the stage for that, in which case it's possible, and this is just me like pie in the sky, it's possible we might actually have perhaps a new power type reward at the end of this one. And do not quote me on that, because that is not a thing that's even in the cards right now. But if for example, we kind of like master this kind of flow, which I think we're actually considering, we're all working remotely, we're actually pulling off quite well. So that is exciting. Yeah. Approximate next update release date. That, unfortunately, I do not even have a figure to guess. Let's see. But yeah, mainly because like we're still kind of like going through all the roadmap and just kind of like laying it all out. It's definitely in the process, but it's going to take a little while. Art-wise, we're actually making excellent headway on it. We've kind of like gotten maybe 25 mice at a point where we're pretty happy with them, around that number. But that said, it is going to be probably the biggest area. So we'll see. Oh, I forget. Did I actually... Oh, interesting. Okay, I see what this file is. So I ended up just doing a search for this mouse, and I ended up finding like a merch kind of file for her instead of her original. So I should probably dig up the original, Because right now that's just a flat image of her. Let's see. But why would it have that as the start date? Weird. Okay. What did I call her then if not that? Alright, give me 1 minute while I try and find the original file for her. Yeah, I looked over and I was like, why is there just the one layer with her? I certainly didn't have that habit way back when, to just flatten everything. Found her. Okay, so this is the original. Does this have a different creation date? I don't think so. I probably duplicated the original. Let's see. Yeah, May 14th, 2015. Okay. All right. Well, let me just close this one. And then, like, ever so quickly just tab around to things you don't need to see. There we go. No spoilers were here at all. I would never do that to you guys. All right, so one of the things about the law mice is they, at least right now, thematically have been stealing their technology from the tactical mice. That old sketch. So what I'm thinking is we could modify her current outfit. Not like the clothing. I like the clothing. I think it's actually pretty great. Although maybe we want to bring it in line with the rest of the law mice a little more. But basically, what we could do is we could upgrade her guns to look more steampunk based, which will fit the whole theme a little better. Probably change that gem out to be the gem color for the floating islands mice. Swap out certain things to be brass. Although she actually has some decent brass stuff, but maybe give her a little more kind of like steampunk vibe. Yeah, that would actually be pretty great if there was just an explosion behind her. I will definitely keep that in mind if she does end up becoming the boss of the power type, because I feel like we'll probably want to have like a little more oomph to their characters, and so putting in background elements like that could be pretty great. All right, so oh, you know what? I did just flatten it all. What would you look at that? No worries though. Like, honestly, this is how I work these days. So what I'm thinking is I'll actually just paint over her weaponry, like paint it out currently, and then just kind of give her a whole new set of gear. Obviously, her thing is to just be kitted out. So I don't want to, you know, like give her less armament, but just make it look a little more of the location. So let's see. I mean to carve into the corset. All right, so the wanted poster I think could stay. It would you know, like help with that kind of like lawless feeling where she is like the biggest bounty up in the skies, so come and get me. kind of thing. Um, I totally love that. Yeah, it kind of like has that element of like she actually maybe came from the from Claw Shot and like was like, this is too small fry for me. I'm gonna like take over up there. So that would actually be pretty cool. In which case, I almost want to give her like a way to fly. Is that crazy? Um, like giving her like almost like a jetpack, but that seems really different from what she is right now. Yeah, I mean this character was definitely created as a claw shot character. So the money bags and the crate, I feel like I'm gonna want to change those to feel a little bit more of this area. And I might change the colors of the outfit as well, just because one of the things is trying to like keep a unity between the mice while they're still all, you know, their own groups. And so that one of the ways we're doing that is the little accents on each of them. So I'm just removing her arsenal for now. Oh yeah, grappling hook weapon? Okay, totally. That makes sense, because maybe she like would use that to like travel between the islands, you know? Like I could totally see that being the technique. Yeah, no, you're right. The holster straps there don't make sense unless there is something holstered. Thanks, Michelle. Um, fashion belts. Okay, you're right. If we've learned anything from video games, you got to Nomura it. More belts equals better. So as far as I am concerned, they're not enough. We need to add more. Perhaps her grappling gun is just a bunch of belts all linked together. So I think that she's holding her own wanted poster as just like taunt, you know, like you have no power over me kind of thing. Like, what you think you can claim this? That kind of. Also need huge pauldrons, of course. Yeah, let's just like. Oh, and more hats thanks to Valve. What else? What else can we do? Let's see how we can ruin this character. No. So do we want the grappling gun over her shoulder or in her kind of like resting hand down there? Depends on kind of like what it looks like. I think if it's over the shoulder, it'll be kind of like a big honkin' grappling gun, which actually I feel like would make sense because perhaps these islands drift pretty far apart, so you need to like launch that thing. And it would also look pretty intimidating. And then like maybe she just has like a little kind of like steampunk ray gun looking pistol in her other hand. That could be fun. All right, let's try that out. So this holstered gun is way too kind of like classic style 6-shooter for what we want. So I'm just gonna clear that one out. Can keep the bandolier. We'll just have to repaint that in. Yeah, so I think I'll do the shoulder as the grappling gun. Brass goggles, yes, but on top of her hat, because that's just what you do, right? So like if I remove this belt of bullets and I were to put these brass accoutrement here. I mean, that's just very steampunk to do, so it's really like the only choice, I think. Tiny Derringer in the hat. So I'm not expecting to complete this piece today, by the way. As I stated at the beginning, we basically are only streaming for, what, 2 hours? And I don't want to, you know, rush this character.
Wow, you can't complete something in 2 hours.
I have in the past. I think I did the hard-boiled mouse in 3 hours.
I consistently do 3 hours.
Alex is giving me a lip. How dare. But yeah, so basically the goal is to be like figure out what we're going to do with the character today. And then hopefully next stream maybe I'll save for kind of like modifying it, or maybe I'll work on it if I'm feeling that inspiration, and you can kind of like I'll show it off and get your feedback on it, because I feel like this creation is I want it to remain in your guys' hands, basically exclusively. You know, like I feel like this is a very special, important piece that we owe you. So that's my feeling on it, anyways. So I'm just kind of quickly blocking that in so I'll have an idea of what it needs to do. And I'm going to try and bounce around and just kind of like, you know, go to task on each of the elements we can come up with. Miss having the mice drop crafting material that can be seen in their image. Maybe make her drop a gun to make a gun trap. We try to do that when we can. Obviously, it's not always the wisest choice, because when things need to shift during kind of like testing and stuff like that, which definitely happens, it's kind of like, well, why does this mouse look like they should be dropping this, and then they don't, and like that one does, you know, like that could happen. But that said, sometimes when there's like kind of like a farming area, like at the base of the gauntlet, Valor Rift, some of those mice have, I think, okay, maybe just one of them, but they have kind of like the elixir that you drop from them. But yeah, I wouldn't mind remembering some other examples of when we've done that in the past, especially with like a trap component, because we haven't done that for a long time. So I'm kind of curious to know what ones you guys remember of that, because I would find that interesting knowledge. Okay, so I'm taking this one out because I want to leave enough room for this kind of like grapple shot to actually like show it off. So we can get rid of that smoke, and then I'm gonna all of the cork. Good point. Yeah, absolutely. I suppose, yeah, like there are definitely instances where we've kind of managed to put that in. Yeah, if we had the foresight capability, I would totally love to have every single character represent what they, you know, are like, well, what they are able to anyways, like if they have cool drop, but, you know, also don't want it to interfere with just making an interesting character where it's like, oh, we need to make this mouse the floorboard dropper, and that's just all they are, you know, instead of making like a fun, yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point, guys, gals, and everybody, and their pets. Oh yeah, that's right. Minnow and Master Burglar do have the loot in their image. Yeah, good points. Good points. All right. I enjoyed kind of like putting that in for the Minotaur. Actually, it was quite amusing, trying to like figure out what it would be doing and just like showing it kind of like chilling with its horde. That was fun. All right. Gnawnian Express also did have some of those characters with their loot on them. Yeah, Calgara's rib. I just noticed that. Shh, we don't talk about having to remove its rib. But yeah, those are all really interesting examples of where we've done that. I like it. Ooh, okay, interesting idea. Giving her kind of like a fake leg, like a robot steampunk arm or something like that. I mean, that would bring her kind of like, you know, danger element way up if we decided to do that. So like this arm down here, for example, could try that if we want. I am not opposed to that, especially since the pirate group, like so many of them, have like a hook hand or like eye patches or like some just are nothing but pirate kind of like replacement bits and beard, in case you didn't see the kind of really quick spoiler I popped up for a moment. So there's certainly some very resourceful doctors on hand for these mice that decide to kind of, you know, augment using planks of wood and or robotic punchy arms. Wings too. Yeah, wings could be neat. I'm not throwing that out. I meant to do that on a different layer. Oops. Oh well. I want to get just a little more of a leather color on that strap up there. And then I'm going to have the brim of the hat kind of cut in front of the goggles a little more. I think I need to just darken the leather too. Here we go. And then the goggles will just kind of bump down here. Maybe rotate just a little. I think I'll actually like make the band narrower too. It just feels a little too thick for her style. Okay, and then just erase the edge of that so the brim is coming out front. Cool. All right. I think I'm into the idea of her using grappling hooks because it just seems more intense and insane than like flying and gliding gear. It just like requires that much more like fearlessness to get around without the ability to kind of just like glide to safety in case you messed up. So I think I'm definitely going to do the grappling hook, especially because it like reinforces that feeling of repurposed tactical technologies. But that said, I think I'll also be making sure she has an arsenal because that's her jam. Yeah, Winter Soldier. Oh, totally. Like she is fierce. There's a reason why she was the boss. She just kind of, wasn't in claw shot because they were like below her. They were just, like robbing little banks and stuff, and she's like, nah, I want more. So now she is owning the skies. Yeah, no, I think this is working. It'll definitely take some time to kind of adapt the image and update it because I think I want to kind of like clean up the art as well. It's a little dated, but I'm liking kind of like where the story elements are going. It feels a little more kind of what I would want her to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove kind of the old asset here, and that way I can kind of like draw the grappling rifle, grappling cannon, draw the grappling cannon in a better position because I wanted this to be like on the shoulder and I didn't even draw it that way originally, so now we can do that. Definitely grappling cannon, right guys? Fix the face up a little bit. It's not bad, but I just think that proportionally I'd do it a little differently right now, but I'll deal with that later. So she was that boss that she wasn't even allowed in claw shot anymore. They're like, lady, you're too much. Bionic eye for a scope. Starting to get dark heresy on me there. All right. Let's just kind of keep making room for what comes next. So I'm not going to bother fixing the poster right now, aside from just kind of like giving it this corner back. Yeah, good enough. Oh, fine, I'll put the D. It's a different texture than the rest, but it's probably getting covered up anyways, so. Okay. So let me do a new layer. Just merge the goggle down, that's fine. Let's do a quick little sketch of this grappling cannon. So it's going to go over the shoulder. So it's like basically a repurposed harpoon gun, but a cannon, probably, hopefully. Wanted cheese. I see. Yeah, no, like specifically, she took stuff to like forge these weapons that are not of, you know, not of their normal kind of kit. Let's see. It'll have kind of like some rope. Big shoulder here, cutting in front of the ear maybe. And it needs to be counterbalanced right now because it's like super top heavy. But no, shall we do that? Now, if we have this go behind the poster, that could work. Just like this huge, like, handle. Seems like overkill. And it kind of interferes with where the poster is, but we can move where the poster is a bit. Like it seems like it's too big for her, you know. Yeah, Tribal Isles parts for it. That could be pretty great. Yeah, a little too big. Yeah, I just kind of like want it to poke out from there a little bit because yeah, it would have to go behind it if we did do that. So I could move the poster out of the way easily enough, and maybe it would be more like here. Something more like that could work. Or I could maybe bring this up to be just a little more reasonable as well. I kind of like it being like top heavy. Actually, what I might try and do really quick is just, you know, do a quick sketch of what this could look like. It's kind of more like, I like this big spool here, something like that, right? And I don't know, maybe there's like the arms up here that actually launch this, like, I guess it'd be more of a crossbow kind of system, or it could be, you know, like a big kind of gas-powered thing, steam-powered rather. Sorry, fit with the theme. Although there isn't a lot of visible steam technology happening, just the style. Maybe it's counterbalanced by the actual kind of like pressurized system being in the back, where the actual stock is. So maybe it's more like something like that. I don't want to get like too deep into kind of designing, you know, the mouse weaponry kind of thing. I want to focus on the character, but just trying to get an idea of what that could look like. Oh, and I also kind of like this long pull bar handle or trigger kind of thing. It just feels more kit bashed, which is, you know, the thing you need for good steampunk. So yeah, we're not going to see all that kind of like level of detail, but just kind of having an idea of how that might be balanced. So then if a mouse is using it, they would need to like support it with a hand up here and back here, because the center of balance would be around here maybe. So I think that could work. And then under the shoulder. Yeah, okay, so that's probably balanced. Wow. Hello, phone. All right. So yeah, let's take a quick look at the harpoon gun from the Tribal Isles. I feel like that's a pretty interesting nod if we can kind of make it look like she took that. So let me dig that up. Harpoon gun. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, it kind of has a lot of the elements that I was kind of discussing just now. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. Cool. Sorry, I just needed to check in on something pretty quick. These are just a bunch of messages, but we're good. Okay. So yeah, I like the kind of like the shapes in this middle section here, where there's like this dense kind of cluster that are kind of like haphazardly almost falling off each other. It almost looks like an engine block in the middle here or something like that. So this could be kind of like the rope spool here, and even have kind of like, you know, a bit of it dangling off to show it. So then, let's see if I can just drag and drop. I don't think I will be able to make it that easily, but hey, don't know till you try. So this dangling rope, I'll leave it in the sketch right now, but it would need to dangle the other way because we're flipping it. So let's do this and this and scale it up, and that's probably too big, and rotate. Yeah, we're missing out on those details that I really think kind of make it extra interesting, but I'll just keep scaling it up till it works, right? Is that how you do this? That's too big. We'll just have to shift it around a bit. That's fine. I think this kind of like big chunk in the top here just has to go, and it should work then. Yeah, that'll be fine. It still looks just huge. It can come in front of the poster again without it kind of like blocking too much. I think it'll still be obvious what that is, so I'm not concerned about the read there. Yeah, I think that is right where it needs to be. We'll shift her a little bit to the left because we don't want it touching the edge. But let's just kind of like turn this down real quick so I can erase away where I need to see things. I'm just using a clipping mask in case I decide I want to, you know, use that sketch in a different way, like move that maybe to her left hand instead, because all that interesting detail was lost behind her shoulder or something. So this will make it so that erasing, in a sense, but not destructively. So then that ear might get covered by, yeah, it probably would get blocked a bit by the trigger there. I'd potentially be shifting this whole arm a bit to kind of like balance it. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this. I'm going to get rid of this arm right now. And what she'll potentially be doing to hold the weapon is kind of more of a like putting her arm out and letting it rest over the end of it. And then like because her arm is so far out, it's producing more torque on it to kind of keep it upright with the least amount of effort. So let's see if that works with the sketch. Yeah, not bad. So I'll just kind of quickly shade that in to give an idea of what is happening. So it's kind of coming up and then over. And based on kind of like the poster's position and the potential of what the materials of the cannon are, I might do that robo arm thingy there, possibly. Who knows? Cool. All right, so I don't know if that reads amazingly well there, but that's kind of cool. Look at that, masked it off for easy control. See, I like how big it looks back here, so what I could do is like shift this up here and then just have the harpoon just poking out of the back of it, right? It doesn't need to be sticking out nearly as long. And then we can show off the rope, we can show off all that like steampunkiness, and then maybe, yeah, I think I'd extend that the stock down, and I think that'll probably look good that way. So let's do it that way. I'm going to move this down to the point where you can see that kind of like trigger system. It's still coming up in front of the ear, which we might have to tweak. That's okay. I'll leave that there. All right. I think I'm close to being pretty content with that. So I'm actually just merge that into itself. Oops, I merged it with the arm. Didn't mean that. I just mean the clipping mask I'm done with. Because either we go this route or we don't. I'll actually also want to bring the opacity back up before I merge that. There we go. Now I can kind of finish off the sketch part. And then really just quickly block in the materials. So based on this pose as well, I think it would look more natural if I, so her hip is up this way, right? Which means her spine is bending this way. And then she also has this massive weight on this shoulder, which is pressing down. So naturally her shoulders are gonna be tilted way more than they are. So this shoulder is gonna dip down to here, which works with where that kind of like, the cannon is kind of rested. I suppose that I don't need to unhide that. Can't right now, it's all locked. But someone is requesting friends in their Warpath map, so people are interested. Also, I'm going to have a Larry link for you guys, but I'll give that out at the end of the stream, which is when I'm going on lunch, but that'll be the end of the stream for today. Because in case you weren't around for me announcing it, me and Dave have kind of like a meeting to do, so it's a short stream today. Okay, so it's not a very good sketch color for this. And I'm gonna make the stock like be like not ridiculously long, but like ridiculously heavy looking, because it'll be a steampunk stock. It'll have kind of the gaskets and kind of all that goodness attached. Okay, and we can make the handle maybe come out to here so that the arm can kind of go under it. Okay. So I'm gonna have these elements kind of like more distinct from each other, like the silhouette will have kind of like nice clean openings between pieces so that you can see that it's made of multiple parts, even at a glance. But then there'll be kind of like the ropes and kind of, you know, cogs or whatever we would use to kind of like make this function, kind of pulling the pieces together. So I think this is going to have a nice kind of like steampunk vibe, which is what like we would need to kind of like make it fit this area. And then because our arsenal is just going to be like ridiculous, then yeah, I think she'll be kind of boss tier, you know. So I think we're on track to that goal right now, at least. We'll see what we come up with for the other power types and if that changes things. But for now, I think she is definitely capable. And then yeah, so this harpoon here, we need to make sure it looks like, you know, a grappling tool, I think anyways. So just like giving it these massive kind of arms to hook onto things with. Something like that. And the whole while I'm trying to kind of consider what the silhouettes say about it, you know, like really aggressive and kind of angular. Makes her look extra kind of fierce. Her kind of just casually standing with this huge device that could just punch right through a car or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty threatening. And I'm gonna give it a little more space to make that hook shot just even bigger. Because I feel like if she's, you know, shooting it to like distant islands and then like flying across the skies using this thing, which again is too amazing to not have it be that, or even like airships and stuff. Like, could you imagine her, you know, like taking out pirate ships with this thing, I could. I mean, one thing is she would totally fit with the pirate group as well, but I don't know. I kind of want her to be the leader of the law group, because that just seems like, you know, to honor what she was supposed to be. Whereas I already have some ideas for what the pirate bosses and such could be, and I want to, you know, do them their own justice. Okay, so look at this. Making MouseHunt friends in the stream. That's nice. Good luck on your maps, guys. Hope you get some sweet loot. And again, to any intrepid hunters who do not have your best in slot weapons and bases, now is a good time to go and hunt those down, you guys. The new area is going to be challenging. It is going to look to, you know, test your might and basically all of the power types to reason. It won't be, you know, like impossible without, but obviously once the area does open up, you're probably going to want to be there and not having to go and hunt down things you might have missed having beforehand. So yeah, you have time right now. So if you're looking for something to do, it is a worthy thing. So just a little heads up on that. Though I'm sure you guys are more prepared than I. Alex is baking banana bread, and I just got a whiff of it. It smells so good. Woo! I'm so excited for the banana bread. It's gonna be amazing. Alright. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I feel like that's going to kind of like, you know, add to this character. So I'll try and give the impression of there being this kind of rope system that it's, you know, doing. I might actually like change the angle on this to kind of like be more like the old school harpoon cannon trap, where like you actually, hey, can I, there we go. Alright, fine. Fine, computer. Don't do things I ask you to. Sometimes Photoshop is, like right now, just not cool. Where did my eraser go? Like, why? What is happening? Charlie, what did you do? I don't get it. This happened yesterday, where like suddenly my eraser just stopped working. Everything else is fine though. See, draw, can't erase. It does, but it's like the thinnest amount, and I'm using. Whoa, hey, wait, what? What is? Did you actually hit a button, even though this thing's fully disabled? I've like shut off all of these buttons, but you somehow still managed to activate some kind of shortcut that destroyed my computer. Charlie? Cats. Okay, so I can draw, can't erase. This makes no sense. Oh, there we go. Okay, now suddenly I can, I guess. I don't understand why it does that. Right. just gonna fill in this arm real quick, which I think I like that angle for it. Apologies for that strange interruption. Put the arm in front so that it makes more sense as to what we're looking at. So here's just kind of like, oh yeah, that's a hand, I guess. Real quality hand, Jacob. You know how to draw them. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to a softer eraser. Okay. And then, so this would be behind the stock here. I do want to shift that shoulder down. In which case the arm, let's see. How will I do that easily enough? So I could maybe make a big selection and rotate. I'm going to just rotate everything. Kind of like that. Though I definitely need to get rid of the clipping mask. Alright, so I think that could work. Sorry if I'm like good and rambly. Oh, my eraser opacity was at 11%, which it made sense as to why it was still erasing a little bit, but the thing is I was hitting my kind of like hotkey that you know, like restores my default eraser setting, but whatever was activating a key was just holding down the number 1 button, apparently. If that's what it, if it was 11% opacity, that just means it was just hammering 1 repeatedly. So, but it doesn't make sense why my brush wasn't at 11%. Then, you know. Okay, so let's see. Is that going to be enough for the shoulder? I don't think so. I think I need more of the just the torso rotating as opposed to like everything. So I'm gonna try more like this, where it's like the shoulder is real dipped. Well, I am definitely going to need to move the head over for that to not look ridiculous. So, oop, wrong selection. There we go. So let's just try it again. And we can like tilt the head up, but we'll have the neck kind of still coming forward. And then we can kind of like move the whole piece back to the right a little bit too, I think. Just because we don't want to unbalance it. So again, I'm probably going to do a little bit of touch up on kind of her face and stuff. You know, she's kind of like leaning forward at us, which is a little intimidating. And then this can kind of come back here. That makes, yeah, see now it looks like she's bearing that weight, whereas before she didn't, right? I don't know if you see that, but it does feel a little bit more like she's kind of like getting under the weight and hoisting it up, which is good. Seems about right. And actually her old arm now works in that kind of pose again, so I'm actually going to just grab a selection of it and repurpose it. So I'll just take that whole thing there. Copy, hide. Does this layer anything right now? I don't think so. So somewhere around there could work. But yeah, it almost I almost like how oversized this thing appears to be for her. Where it's like, it doesn't even kind of like fit her proportionally. Robodoc, there is not an expansion to Clawshot City planned currently. There used to be, in a sense. This character was going to be an expansion kind of boss type character for Clawshot. However, we never ended up pursuing that, and so this character just ended up in a weird limbo. So now, since we have kind of like a newer, better law kind of thing happening in the sky, the floating islands placeholder name, this is kind of like what the character is going to be repurposed to fit. So she is currently, ideally, we're not 100%, confirmed on that, but it'd be neat if she ends up getting to be kind of like a boss type character for the floating islands. So I'm gonna move this. I like the handle here. Fits the hand well. I'm gonna thin out the stock just a bit so her arm isn't kind of completely blocked by it. So that works. Now the poster is very much blocked again, and that was kind of a concern. But that said, we can just have the stock go behind if we need to. Now the stock looks like it's just like flipped. So okay, so here's the thing. If I move this down, move the stock up here, that kind of just makes more sense as to where that could be. And then we'll move the poster in front, but lower it so that it kind of like, they kind of like trade places just a little bit. And I think that'll work better. And then, as I mentioned, overall, the whole piece can slide to the right a bit. But the harpoon just got a little bit bigger. There we go. Just take that space to show off all the cool bits. Just a little bit more, right? Yeah, let's bring it all the way out here. Is that crazy unbalanced? Yes. But that's what makes her look all the more intense. She's just like, what, this huge thing on my shoulder? It's nothing. Don't worry about it. All right. Cool. All right. Yeah, I think we're figuring out what needs to work where. I think that this is gonna have that kind of like steampunk vibe just fine. So that's gonna work. I think she'll be able to fit the theming of the area, which was a slight concern, not too big of one. I figured we could figure it out, but just to be sure. All right, so now I'm gonna just get rid of this old stock here, because that is going to be used in the new version. Okay. Yeah, and balance-wise, that just does feel a little bit better. Okay. That shoulder is just going to get smushed down, though, because this huge thing is just sitting on top of it. And of course, we'll need to kind of fill in weird just gaps. Here as well. Good enough, good enough. And then erase here just a bit. Yeah, and one of the things about it as well is the rendering quality. I don't feel like captures the lighting as well as it could. So like the actual clothing, I feel like I want to, you know, take another swing at that. You guys talking about layering up the goggles on her hat? All right, so let's bring back the grappling cannon. All right, and I think I'll just quickly give it its own kind of like its own wrong layer. Oops. Its own silhouette. So what layer? Okay, yeah. Just undo a bunch. There we go. Put that in the correct layer this time. Now block in the silhouette on this device so that I can kind of see it with the rest of the piece a little better. What layer is that? Ah, the shadow layer has an artifact hidden. Okay, now let's bring that down a bit, and we'll just use a like orange, the brass kind of color for now. Not sure what specific materials are going to be where, but just kind of blocking this in will help me to see how it all kind of works together. I can imagine there being some nice like brass with like dark oak kind of layers to it. And then the kind of like brighter rope kind of weaving in things. Yeah, I like the feeling of that kind of the Victorian style kind of steampunk like that. It's just such a fancy era of clothing that's just over the top and ridiculous, which is why, you know, it is just so perfect with steampunk. The turn of the century kind of vibe going. Okay, I'm gonna move the ear. Onto a layer behind. That way I don't need to just paint around it, because that's just annoying to have to deal with. And that means I can also move parts of the shoulder, like so this shoulder back here, the actual hand itself, I'm going to want to be in front of the rifle, but otherwise going behind it is ideal. So I'll have that go on top of the sketch, so we can see where that happens. What's in her left hand? It used to be a shotgun, but we're going to change that to be like more like a just retro kind of ridiculous steampunk ray gun, perhaps, or as suggested by audience members, giving her just like a crazy robotic hand, which could be pretty awesome too. I'm certainly not opposed to either option. I think they're both fun. So I'm going to just kind of block this in 2 layers. I'll have kind of like the main kind of forward accent details, and then I'll do a darker pass for kind of like the internal bits and bobs where things kind of connect and form their silhouettes together. So I'll use my smoothing opaque brush here so it's a nice straight line. Or as straight as I draw lines in MouseHunt. I do not tend to have perfectly geometric things happening in the game. I think I'll thin it up here. I actually liked how it looks more like the insides of like an umbrella. You know how that kind of the arms slide up and extend. I want to kind of give it that look. I can mess with the silhouette of that later. Don't need to go too crazy. Okay, so we'll fill that in there, and then this could be kind of like rope coming off of it, right? So maybe she just used it and like still has to reset the system. That's kind of interesting that it ended up going in front of the arm there. Kind of cool. I mean, it could actually like, yeah. All right. I think I'll put it back to where it just was. That was kind of cool. All right. For now, we'll use it like that. And then this is the actual stock here. What is that? Oh, it's the sketch. That's why. It's like, what is this darker area or the lighter area appearing suddenly? Do I have a clipping mask happening? So I'll just actually fill it in to this point and then use kind of the shoulder puff and neck and stuff to kind of fill in that gap. So just want to have this be about that thick there. And this is the actual stock here, and we're going to have to hide the wanted poster. So let's cut this out so we can kind of shift it around however we need to. Okay, and boom. All right, now we can bring it down to the ear. Cool. And then let's just slide this down here for now. For now, we can move it back up if we want. All right, there's the stock. Let's keep filling that in. Yeah, and I think I'm going to want to have the stock look a little more steampunk than it does. Yeah, the hand over here, the idea of like, oh, she could be holding like some kind of steampunk gun, and then oh, it could be like cool like bionic arm, and then yeah, definitely the natural kind of conclusion between the two is gun arm. Definitely doing gun arm. Oh, the year on the weapon, like just as a nod to how old this character is. Oh, gears. Gears on the weapon, naturally. What steampunk item does not have gears somewhere? Okay, cool. I think that that's pretty good there. So let's give this a flip, because I don't think I've seen this thing flipped since, 2015. Boop. Yeah, so that'll be good. I'm definitely going to have to change the values on a lot of the elements, because if we look at that, it just smears into just its own block of, I can't read what's happening here. So that will definitely be changing. But that said, we only have half an hour left on this this stream today, so we should probably move on. I think that that's in a pretty cool position. We just need to kind of like move stuff like this around to kind of like be like, I like it here, or makes more sense here, or we'll put it in front of the gun again, something like that. Like that's not bad actually. At any rate, we can play with that another time. I'm not concerned about making that work, so I'll just put it back to where it was. So let's do this arm then, because I think that that's kind of the next question mark. I'm actually going to just really quickly, just for the sake of the value structure, darken the area behind the ear. And maybe even just lighten up the ear a bit. It's got a lot of like fairly high key colors happening right now on her, so why not? And then I think the shape of the ear could help as well, just kind of cut into that silhouette a little more directly so that it's able to kind of like define itself a little better, and like where that chunk of the ear is missing kind of like makes for a worse silhouette there, right? So just kind of tweak that a little. I don't want to change her too much, right? Just need to make it read a little stronger. And there are a few ways to go about it. I mean, we could definitely have the ear be more shaded like the one on the other side, perhaps, and then have the harpoon have some like bright enough accents to stand out against it. Many options to explore, but for now, I'll just use this quick one where the ear is light and the steampunkness is a bit in shadow and maybe gritty and grimy and a bit kind of like a darker surface. So. Yeah. So now if we look at the value structure, see how the ear kind of pops out from that, whereas before they blended together, now they kind of stand out a little more distinctly. That said, the shoulders and the puffs on the shoulders specifically, I want those to also stand out. So for example, if I were to kind of use, let's say, a luminosity brush, I would want it to kind of maybe be more like that well defined against it, right? So that it's kind of really easy to see. In which case, it certainly lost a lot of saturation from that, but we maybe pull that back using a saturation brush here. Maybe that'll be what we need. I don't like how dark a lot of these shadows are right now. They're like full-on occluded shadows, and I really don't think that the light would be that intense. So I'm going to have to kind of fix the lighting on a lot of the clothing. I think that it's just too dark overall. So I'll have to deal with that. But I don't need to do that right now. That's definitely more kind of like really nitpicky. So I don't want to get caught up finishing off the last of the stream, just kind of slowly, slightly adjusting some colors of the outfit. Instead, let's try messing with the arm. See if we can't kind of create something a little more exciting and boss-like. Also going to give this a save. That's kind of important. So. There the folder is. Save. All right, cool. Ooh. Wow. Don't forget to sound your hunter's horn. All right. So let's see. I like the kind of the sleeves she has. I would like to kind of keep that. And so would it be crazy to like have this kind of cool robotic arm with that nice sleeve over top? I don't think so. I think that could be interesting. If it will work. I don't know if it will. But we'll try. We'll certainly try. All right. So I think I can just let's just do a new layer to sketch on. And what do we want for the arm? There was obviously the idea of her having this kind of like, you know, fancy steampunk tech gun, but there was also that very solid idea of what is this? Oh, it's eraser. Making the arm itself into that ridiculous steampunk gun. So I think we'll start with that because I feel like that's where a lot of people would be interested in seeing it go. Yeah, I don't think her dress isn't great. Like, I think it's okay. I just think the lighting kind of like on it can be just a little bit more accurate. It's just kind of, it feels a little off now. That's just because I have a more kind of like developed keen eye for that kind of thing nowadays than I did when I first created this. So, but yeah, I'll mess with that later, and honestly, it probably won't be noticeable. Okay, so how would this work? So we have kind of like, you know, an arm. Like, yeah, that's what a hand looks like. Sure, we know how to draw those. So something, you know, in that kind of like shape vaguely. But then, you know, it like turns into kind of like some kind of, you know, weapon. And then this one could be smoldering like the old drawing. And that could be cool. So like, something like that. But then with that like nice kind of sleeve around it, except where it just kind of blasted a hole through it, I suppose. Maybe like some kind of, you know, control mechanism off to the side or something. It's kind of sticking out a bit, maybe too far. Maybe it doesn't need that there, at least. These are all fair questions, and definitely would be a challenge. Luckily, she only needs one shot, so she can take her time reloading. She has to put her giant grappling cannon down, though, first, I suppose. Don't question her strength. Indeed. She can chase you down with her grappling cannon. She can take you out with her arm shot. And if you end up getting in real close, she'll just kick you with her boot. It's still got a pointy tip. Don't mess with her. Alright. I actually kind of like this. Like the three-fingered, for whatever reason, I was like, this is just like weird enough that it feels like it shouldn't belong, you know, and that's kind of like what I want this tech to feel like a little bit. It's just like they've experimented in strange ways, right? I still definitely want it to feel kind of like on that kind of silly, whimsical steampunk level. Like I don't want it to get into kind of like, whoa, Deathbot arm kind of territory, which I think it's kind of almost there. So, yeah, she would definitely have that, wouldn't she? Where it's just like her peons will like reload her arm. She has the other mice under boot because she's the boss. Mhm. Yeah, it does look like the plasma cannon from Pacific Rim right now. Hey, maybe it does shoot like just a blast of like electricity. It just built up so much static from its kind of internal generator and then has some capability to launch it. That angle is a bit off because the cannon shot would be like coming out like that. Right, so we want the lips to be in line, otherwise it looks wrong. So let's just redo that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually kind of having a similar thought that like people are like, well, how does she operate that ridiculous cannon with an arm like that? But yeah, like maybe it does actually like slot in like right here. Maybe those three fingers kind of like click in, and then she can just like activate her arm to like just cause it to just spool the rope back in super fast. And then she also just lifts it using that. So it's just like this big, fast rotating cannon arm. Why not? I mean, if anyone's gonna steal technology from the future, I feel like someone who's been missing in the past for this long would be capable of it. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty fun. I do still want to like make it keep that kind of low tech steampunk whimsy kind of feel to it. So I will work towards that, but I do think that I'm okay with this direction for it. For the bandolier, I think we can keep it pretty much as is, but just maybe make it a bit thicker to just kind of use that space a little better. So I'll just kind of make that bigger. And then the boot, fine. I think we could return this holster, but then like what do we want to put in that? Which area are we making next, you ask? So the next kind of project is where this mouse is going to be going, which is the floating islands, at least placeholder name for it. It's kind of a pretty big deal area that's going to include all of the power types except for Rift in it, and so it's gonna have a lot of mice, and it's gonna take a while to kind of complete the production of. There's a lot of things to do in it, both for us to develop and for you guys to play around. So it'll be a while before we come out with it, but we actually have quite a few of the mice basically completed at this point. Is it a tie-in with MouseHunt World? It is not a tie-in with MouseHunt World, but yeah, it's definitely kind of like the next chapter in MouseHunt's story itself. MouseHunt World's kind of like a spin-off that another team in our company was interested in trying out, where basically they kind of like took the concept of MouseHunt and brought it into Earth. Just wanted to clean that ear there, the edge. Yeah, so there really isn't much of a tie-in at the moment. All right, so that works. Anyone else have any thoughts on kind of this bionic arm? Should we kind of like play around with that more? Do we like this weird kind of like cannon spout? I feel like maybe we want to make it more kind of like barrel, like kind of like pistol barrel, so that it's not too future tech feeling, right? So we can kind of keep these weird thin robot hands, but then kind of like make it a more simple rifle shot or something like that. It's more of like that Derringer surprise, right? Like it doesn't need to be this massive, you know, EMP blast cannon arm. It's more like, you know, going for the handshake and oops, she gotcha kind of thing. Any idea when MouseHunt World is going to be released is your question, or the Floating Islands area going to be released? Make the smoke coming from her hand more realistic. I mean, it's just the sketch, but yes, let's do that. Let's see. Now, I don't observe too much of that kind of wisp of, you know, gunpowder coming off of a barrel, but let me know if that works a little better. Oh, interesting idea. Okay, maybe the finger's silhouette follow the style from the harpoon gun. That's actually a pretty clever idea to kind of like, you know, have an element flowing through the piece. Very smart. I like that. So the way that I see it is she has, because you're talking about kind of like having 2 long-range weapons. Well, to be fair, the original drawing, she actually had like 6. But yeah, like the cannon, I see more as a device used to actually traverse the islands as opposed to attacking with directly, although that certainly wouldn't stop her, I imagine. But then this has, you know, less stopping power probably than, you know, getting hit with something like that. But is also kind of like, you know, more hidden and easier to catch someone off guard with than, you know, lugging this giant thing around. And then for short range, she's got her little spiky boots and knife tucked in boot. Yeah, she used to have like a rifle on her back, 6-shooter here, 6-shooter here, big shotgun here, big rifle here, so she was pretty kitted out. Yeah, this is the mouse that was never released. We're gonna fix that. You are right. Yeah, I'm not sure what I want to do with this like holster type thing here. It could just be like a pouch for, you know, whatever. So I think I'll leave that as an element. Tone it down enough anyways. Don't need to kind of have it draw too much attention, especially since there's a lot kind of happening in that area right there. So I'm just gonna move that over. So we have 15 minutes before I'm gonna, you know, adios, and go eat some lunch before my meeting with Dave. So there's obviously a lot we can do still. I really feel like we could work on this character for days. Is there any kind of elements that we want to kind of like quickly really look into that could be pretty dramatic changes to the character? Any thoughts on that? Yeah, in terms of people asking about MouseHunt World, um, it's like using MouseHunt IP in a sense, but like there isn't really kind of like crossover specifically between the two. The gameplay is like a different thing altogether. It's like an um, uh, you know, like alternate reality kind of. You get to walk around and actually place traps in your kind of vicinity, and you know, like kind of like walk around and try and collect mice around the city and stuff like that. Although I suppose current timing, it's not ideal either for kind of like a, you know, walk and explore kind of game, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a whole different team that kind of developed it too. So in case, because I know it's come up before, where people have been like asking if a project like that has taken away resources from MouseHunt that we do. No, they're completely separate teams, and haven't actually even kind of done a whole lot of kind of intermixing of ideas. They wanted to kind of have their own take on it. So that is the case there. But what happened to Horseshoe Island? Where did the mechanical horse come from? I like it. I mean, someone had to make that, right? Like there is the, what is it? That's the 6-string shooter, or I forget the name of the mouse. But yeah, it has like, it's riding the metal steed, and has like, does it actually have a 6-string strapped to its back? Because if it doesn't, it should. I feel like it does. That was supposed to be erased. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have fun playing around with this design. There's just a lot to try out. Lots to explore with this character, and I want to take the time and kind of like do this character justice, because she's had to sit in the sidelines for so long. And honestly, like, I just think she was always really interesting and like fun. So it's too bad we never actually used her. But we're finally fixing that after so many years. I guess it's been 5 years? Oof. Yeah. Actually, wait a second. It'd be 5 years in 1 week. Right? Am I crazy? Did I say that we created her on May 14th and it's May 8th? May 14th, 2015, guys. It's her 5th birthday coming up. Well, what do you know? Welcome to the game, finally. It'll still be a while before you get to, you know, blast away the hunters, but look forward to it. It's going to be fun. I'm sure she does. All right. Well, that's great. I think that's fun. How many is that in mouse years? Mice usually, what is it, like maybe 3 years is kind of their life expectancy for kind of like, you know, a cared for pet. So I don't know, I guess that's like times 30. So she like, well, let's see. I don't think she's, you know, 150 years old per se, but she's ancient. There are a lot of old mice, and like old in human years too. So they kind of have different rules to our earthly counterparts. As one might imagine, there is some differences to be found. Just a few. Okay. So there's a lot of kind of like little things to fix up and stuff, and I might just do that later off stream, but then kind of like next stream we do, I'll bring this back and we can kind of pick up where we left off with, you know, some stuff tuned up a bit. One thing I do definitely still want to figure out is like, what are we doing with all this, right? Like, I don't know that fits the sky or the sorry, the sky islands, floating islands kind of setup right now. So I might try swapping this stuff out, and we might change out the wanted poster. I like it. I think it's fun, and especially if we do decide to kind of keep a nod to the claw shot, which I think is totally appropriate for like the history of this character, right? So that'd be kind of nice to honor that. But yeah, so we'll probably want to like explore what that could be. There's obviously lots of rendering to do still and figure out. So yeah, I think I'm going to close up the stream now because I have to go on lunch soon. And then yeah, I'll try and pick this up again, basically where we left off, with a little bit rendered out maybe. But yeah, I'll pick it up next stream, and we should be able to, at that point, because it should be a normal length stream, we should be able to wrap up this character pretty effectively and like get like all those extra details and like bring her up to the tier of you know, Sky Paragon, and I think I'll be pretty happy with that, and hope you are as well. But yeah, nope, that message did not need to be retracted because banana bread is accurate. That is what is on my mind right now. Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed. I had a lot of fun. I know it's like one of, if not the shortest stream I've done yet, because I think last week was real short, but I think we ended at 2 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock. But as always, I super duper appreciate all you guys coming out, hanging out, helping me kind of figure out my what I'm working on. And oh, I forgot to like return the camera to this window. I'm so sorry you couldn't see my beautiful mug that whole time. But yeah, as always, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe, happy hunting, everyone, and take care. Okay, bye for now. See you later. Bye.